Hi, I'm Tanja Hayes. Let's learn some economics. Let's talk about a monopoly type of situation. So a monopolist is basically a situation where we have just one single seller. It doesn't happen very often, and we kind of don't like it because if you have one single seller, they can have so much power over the price and the product that in general, we try to break that up with antitrust laws. But there are some monopolies in the world. One example is a natural monopoly, which is usually a utility company like a power company. Imagine that you want to add another power company in your city. How would you do that? You would have to put up power lines all over the whole city. Just imagine how expensive that would be. And then since there already is another power company there, you would only get half the customers, and that wouldn't cover those costs. So therefore, nobody would do that. So something as big as a power company is what's called a natural monopoly. So that is usually going to be just one single one available per area. You could also have a situation where the key resource in order to make this product is owned by just one person or something. So in the case of the diamond industry, diamonds are really mostly available just in one area, and they're mostly owned by this one firm. And so diamonds are kind of a monopoly situation too. And lastly, in our everyday world, we might see monopolies in places like a baseball stadium or at an airport or something. So if you go to watch a game of baseball, how come they can charge whatever they want for a hot dog? Because where else are you going to go? There are no other places. They are all being sold by the same vendor because they can and they want to make money. So that's kind of how we can think of monopolies. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about the revenue side of things and the cost side of things and how they're going to maximize their profit. So because it is a monopolist, they are the only seller of this item. That means that the demand curve for this item, whatever it might be, is all theirs, basically. So everybody who demands this product demands it from this person. So they can choose any quantity and any price that they want to go ahead and sell this product for. We are also going to need to think about the marginal revenue curve for the monopolist. And this could be slightly tricky, but basically it goes below the demand curve and falls faster than it. So it's steeper than the demand curve. And let's think about why that is. So I'm going to put up an example and we'll take a look. All right, so here we are with an example. So we are looking at this demand curve, and I have marked 3 different points. So if we decide to charge $10, one item will be sold. One person wants to buy this item. If we lower that price to $9, now we got 2 people buying the item. If we lower it to 8, we got 3 people. Okay, so here is the same information just in a table. Depending on the price, what's the quantity that's being bought? So now, if we want to get the marginal revenue thinking, that means that the extra revenue per unit or for one more unit, first we got to look at what's the total revenue in each case. And then we look at how much did it change from one to the next. So we're going to make a little column here of total revenue, TR. The total revenue we would get by taking the price times the quantity. So if we're selling 1 unit and it's $10 per unit, we're going to get $10. So multiplying those together, we get 10. If we sell 2 units for $9 each, what's the total amount we're bringing in? Multiply, then we get 18. And down here, multiply 8 times 3, we get 24. Okay, and we can use that to make just one more column, I promise. Here is our marginal revenue. So that's what we're trying to get to, marginal revenue. So the marginal revenue looks at, okay, as we go from one quantity amount to one more quantity, how much extra revenue did we get? So it looks like as we got to this first unit, we made that extra $10, so to speak. We didn't make any money before that. So the marginal revenue for that first unit was 10. Now, for the second unit, we had to lower the price to 9 to get the second person to buy it, and the first person now also is only paying 9. So our total revenue is 18. So how much marginal revenue do we have? How much extra revenue did we get? We went from 10 to 18. So we got an extra $8. That was our marginal revenue. And as we go to our third unit, we have to sell it at $8. Now our total revenue is 24. That means we went from 18 to 24, which is $6 extra in revenue, marginal revenue for that third unit. So if we look at these numbers, the marginal revenue amounts, we can map them onto our graph. So for the first unit, we're selling it for 10, the marginal revenue is 10, so it starts right there. But then for the second unit, we're not going to put 9 there because our marginal revenue for the second unit was only 8. So for 2 units, we're already down here at 8. And then for 3 units, we're all the way down at 6. So 3 somewhere down here maybe. So if we connect those together, that's how we get our marginal revenue curve. And so we could always do the math and show an example of why the marginal revenue curve is below the demand curve and it's steeper than the demand curve. Whew, cool. Now we know those two, and now we're just going to add our beautiful cost curves together and figure out how much to produce, and what are we going to charge, and how much profit are we making. Okay, so we're back. We've got our demand curve, we've got the marginal revenue curve below it and steeper than it. We know why now. All right, so now we're going to add the cost curves that we need in order to figure out what to do. So we're going to start with the marginal cost curve. What does that look like? Pretty much a check mark. So it goes down a tiny bit and then mostly up. Marginal cost. And then we're also going to add in an average total cost curve so we can figure out if we're making a profit or not. And we know that it gets intersected by the marginal cost at its bottom, and it is a smiley mouth. The world's best drawer, maybe didn't get it perfect, but something like that. Okay, so look at this big mess. Looks like a crazy spider web, but there's so much information here that we're going to use. So we're going to try to figure out, our task is to figure out how much should we produce, us being this monopolist, what price should we charge, and what profit are we making, if any. So step 1, we're going to figure out the quantity that we want to produce at. What's the profit maximizing rule that we're going to use? Produce the quantity where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Always, always, always. So our best quantity to produce is where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, in other words, where they cross. Let's call it Q star, because it is a star in the show. So Q star is going to be located wherever MC equals MR, where they cross. So that's the quantity that we're going to try to sell. Okay. Now, what price should we charge? So if we think, well, let's just go over here and charge this price, some people might think that as their first instinct, but the problem is if we charge this price, what are people going to demand? How many units are they going to want? Well, they are the demand curve. So if we price it here, they're going to want this many units. Is that what we want? No, we don't. So that's not a good place to price it. So how are we going to set our price in order for people to buy this many units? Well, we're going to have to go to the demand curve and set the price that way. So we find that Q star, and then we just go straight up to the demand curve, and that's the price that we are going to charge. We call it P star. Because remember, we are not perfect competition now where the price is just kind of given to us. We're the monopolist. We're the only ones selling this item. We can price it wherever we want, and that's where we're going to do it. So our second thing that we do is figure out where that price is, that P star, from the demand curve. From the demand curve. So now we know how many units and what price, if these were numbers. Lastly, we want to figure out, are we making a profit here? And if so, how much is that profit? So we are going to take a look at the profit. Because all we know so far is we maximized the profit. Sometimes the maximum profit could be 0, though. We don't know. So where we are, we're going to take a look at our profit, which is always going to be the price minus the average total cost. That would be our profit per unit, and then times the number of units. And so visually on our graph, we're going to look at that as at this quantity, we are looking at the difference between the price and the average total cost. So the price per unit is this amount, and our average total cost per unit is this amount according to the ATC curve. So this little vertical distance here is profit per unit, and then we're going to say times the number of units. And so again, we're timesing, multiplying by that quantity. So really, again, we're getting what looks like the area of a rectangle. And that is visually what the profit looks like. And math-wise, like that, if we had numbers. So now we know that we have this profit going on. So what's going to happen? Are other firms going to come in and try to also sell it, drive down the price and all that stuff? Well, no. For some reason, this is a monopoly industry. Maybe this is a power company. No one else is going to come in. Or maybe we are the hot dog company at a baseball stadium. No one else is going to come in. So guess what? Monopolists can make profit in the long run. And then it just stays there. So that's one of the ways that they are different from perfect competition. So the monopolist can make a profit in the long run. Profit in the long run, because no competitors can come in for whatever reason. They are a monopoly. Also, they are not producing at the cheapest place, because this average total cost curve, remember how the marginal cost hits it at its minimum? But now we're somewhere other than that. And so by definition, basically, we are not at the minimum average, not at the minimum average total cost. In other words, this is what we in economics call not efficient. We could be making this product for cheaper, and we could be selling more, but we're not, because the monopoly is trying to maximize these profits. And that's part of why we try to break up monopolies, basically. All right, that's all about that. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.